What's going on, everyone? Happy Friday to everyone. Hopefully everyone is doing well, and hopefully you had a great week so far. The weekend's coming upon us, so let's talk about the weather for the weekend. It is time now for the Friday edition of the Climate-Weather Update for Friday, February 9th, 2024. It's going to be a rather busy time in the world of weather over this weekend for many different reasons. We're going to be talking about the threat of some heavier rainfall in the south, maybe some severe weather, maybe even the threat of severe thunderstorms this evening across portions of Kentucky, Tennessee, back through Arkansas and extreme northeast Texas. Then all eyes next week are going to turn onto the potential for a winter storm in the northeast as the models are starting to come into better agreement now that there is going to be a storm in the northeast. If you're new to my channel, this is where we do the daily weather update. So hit that like button and subscribe button down below, and you'll be updated just about every day on the weather ongoing in the United States. Plus, we do talk about extreme weather events around the world and records and some climate reports as well. All right, starting off today, looking at the satellite picture, you can see here, very visible here on the satellite picture, there is a strong southern jet which extends from the Pacific through Mexico, through Texas, through much of the southeast. You can see here also a boundary did clear the east coast. That was a warm front, and temperatures ahead of that did really warm up. Here in Philadelphia right now, we are at 57 degrees here on my Davis weather station. And out in the west coast, you can see there are still some clouds here and there, and especially in the Pacific Northwest. Taking a look at the latest radar picture, you can see we don't have any thunderstorm activity as of right now, but some thunderstorms are going to start up later on this evening across generally northeast Texas through Kentucky. You can see here there are some showers. There may be a rumble of thunder with some of these. We'll have to watch that as we head into this evening. And there is some showers right now across portions of North Carolina and Tennessee as well. That's just the first of many pieces of energy that are going to come through. Take a look at the National Hazards Map. You can see here there are winter storm watches that are now up for portions of Texas and western Oklahoma. Winter storm warnings up for New Mexico and portions of Colorado. Some snow is expected for you this weekend. The rest of the country right now, as a hazard perspective, is on the quiet side. That's going to change throughout the weekend. Taking a look here at the latest day 1 through 7 precipitation amounts, you can see the eastern half of the country is going to be much more active than the west coast. There will be days later in this period, there will be another system that comes into play in northern California. We'll have to watch that as we head down the line. Also the Pacific Northwest as well. But you can see here, we're expecting, or the Weather Prediction Center is expecting, some relatively heavy rainfall from portions of Texas right on up through to the Carolinas and even into Virginia. And you can see Louisiana, Tennessee, northern Georgia, isolated 3+ inch amounts. Wouldn't surprise me if someone gets 4-inch amounts because there could be some training thunderstorms this weekend. Taking a look at excessive rainfall, there is a day 2 threat, slight risk from Texas through to Tennessee tomorrow, where again we could see some heavier rainfall that sets up enough that there is the warrants an slight risk for excessive rainfall. Taking a look at day 3, which would be Sunday, and you can see here Sunday across portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, portions of North Carolina, and portions of southern Tennessee. This does include Atlanta, Georgia, and Birmingham, Alabama. There's a marginal risk of heavier rainfall for you. Now let's talk about the severe weather aspect. You can see here there is a marginal risk of severe weather from Texas right on up through Kentucky, western Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, southern Illinois, southern Indiana. You are all included in this. Even extreme northwest portion of Mississippi. Now, it's just a marginal. That's one of the lowest levels, but they did now introduce 2% tornado probabilities, 5% wind probabilities, and 5% hail probabilities. I will show this threat to you in just a moment on the HRRR model, but it doesn't stop there. There's a marginal risk for Texas tomorrow, which includes 2% tornado, wind, and hail probabilities. And we'll have to watch. This could get upgraded to a slight risk. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. There is now a slight risk of severe weather for Sunday across portions of eastern Texas, central Louisiana, central portions of Mississippi and extreme western Alabama with a marginal risk that is surrounding that. And that does have 15% probabilities. All modes of severe weather are possible. Low risk of a tornado, but one can't be ruled out. Wind threat and hail threat is also on the table. And if we advance this even further, there is yet another slight risk, which would be for next Monday from Alabama, Georgia, through portions of South Carolina and extreme northern Florida. So we'll have to watch that as well. All right, let's take a look at the HRRR model. This is the 18Z run. And you can see here, as I advance this into tonight, generally after 9 o'clock tonight, 9, 10 o'clock tonight, you can see some thunderstorms do start to crop up here across portions of Arkansas, Illinois, western Kentucky. Look at this. It even tries to get going. Some sort of a squall, a broken up line of thunderstorms. Within that, there could be some rotation. Maybe an isolated tornado. Wind threat is probably going to be the biggest threat, but it's something we'll have to watch. Wouldn't surprise me if there's an isolated tornado or two. After all, we do know what happened yesterday. Yesterday there was a tornado in Wisconsin, which it's the first time there's ever been one in Wisconsin in February. As we advance this into tomorrow, there is a wild card that was not shown by the Storm Prediction Center, but is being shown very clearly on the HRRR model. Take a look at this. This is tomorrow afternoon, say around 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see from eastern Ohio through Pennsylvania, portions of New York. Yes, this is a broken up line of thunderstorms that does get going. We'll have to watch. Should this verify, there would be isolated severe weather tomorrow, including isolated hail, isolated wind gusts. Don't think there would be much in the way of a tornado potential, but you never know. It could sneak up. Any event can suddenly pop a tornado unexpected. So always be prepared for severe weather. Now we have to advance back out to the national view and take a look at this. You can see here. Here's tomorrow's severe weather threat in the south, and I am going to advance this into Sunday. Watch what happens on Sunday. Yes, yet another severe weather threat in Texas late tomorrow night going into Sunday. That's where we'll have to watch for the possibility of an isolated tornado or two. And you can see as I advance this, here's the heavy rainfall. Let's backtrack this a little bit. Here's the heavy rainfall tomorrow evening in that area that has a slight risk for excessive rainfall. And it does actually develop into a solid area of rain for portions of North Carolina and especially over Virginia going into first thing Sunday morning. You're going to be dealing with some moderate to heavy rain, maybe a half an inch to an inch of rainfall just from that alone. Then you can see here as we do get into Sunday afternoon, yes, that severe weather threat that's going to be impacting portions of Louisiana, Mississippi, and eventually into Alabama. We'll have to watch. That could actually get upgraded maybe to an enhanced risk down the line because this is a relatively impressive setup here. Let's take a look at the NAM model now, shall we? And we will advance the NAM out to about 48 hours. You can see as we're going along here, here's that heavier rainfall for down south. And look what happens here. We're right around 48 hours now. Here's that storm system. As you can see, we've advanced to about Sunday night into Monday morning. You can see here, there's going to be an area of low pressure that's developing. The question is, where does that low develop? I think the NAM in this case, as you can see here as I moved along, the NAM is a bit too far south. Other guidance is much further north, and I think this is incorrect. This is the same system that's going to develop into a winter storm for portions of the northeast. Let's take a look at the GFS. We're going to use the 12Z run here, and you can see here, here's our waves of energy. You can see there's multiple waves. Then finally the caboose starts to develop Sunday night into Monday. And you can see here, the low on the GFS gets further north. It gets up into the Ohio Valley. And you can see here, the transfer starts occurring from West Virginia down into Virginia and right off to Delmarva. And that's where the secondary low develops. You can see rain along the I-95 corridor on the GFS. Remember, yesterday the models were a little bit more south. They took that shift south. Now they're shifting back north. That is common with Miller B-type systems. What's a Miller B-type system? Well, if you don't know, it's where you have a primary low inland, and that transfers its energy to a secondary low off the east coast. And that's what's happening here off the Delmarva. See, I backtracked this. Here's the primary low. that transfers to a brand new low that develops right over the Delmarva, and it does actually get quite strong. It does get into the mid 980s. And if this tracks correctly, you could see places like Philadelphia, New York City, maybe ending as some snow, but you are definitely going to start as rain. Same deal with DC and Baltimore. You're going to start as rain. You have to go inland, pretty far inland, to see where the heavier snow is going to be. If you live in State College, Pennsylvania, maybe you live in the Pocono Mountains, maybe you live in the Albany area, you got a pretty good shot right now at 6+ inches of snowfall very early, first thing Tuesday, and much of the day Tuesday. It would probably start very late Monday night, DC, rain, like I said, but if we continue into Tuesday, maybe ending as a ending snowflake. If you want to talk about an inch or two more of maybe backside snow, New York City on northward would be a good bet for that. Boston, this is looking like a snow event for you as of right now. However, should this shift further north, that would change. Often when I do these forecasts, Boston is always on the dividing line. That stays the case with this event right now. Let's go over to the GEFS, and I'll show you what that is showing for this storm. And you can see here, the GEFS does have a lean a bit to the north. It's south of the operational model where it does transfer. You can see it transfers just a little bit south of the Delmarva, but look what happens here. You can see the overall trend on the GEFS. I'm going back multiple runs. You can see it is trending north, and it is also trending stronger. That's relatively interesting. This storm does have a chance, despite it moving quickly, it does have a chance to get into the 980s. So that is a relatively strong area of low pressure, and it will be able to wrap around cold air to the backside, which is why I think interior New England, you have a good shot. Interior Pennsylvania, you have a good shot of getting some fairly heavy snows. Anyone from the I-81 corridor on northwest, this is looking like potential for maybe the biggest snow event of the season so far for you, especially in upstate Pennsylvania. Take a look now at the European model, and we'll keep this at the national level because I do want to show you the West Coast as well. I didn't forget about you guys on the West Coast, but take a look here. You can see on the European, you do have your storm threat in the south. And you can see here's the storm system developing Monday night. Look where it transfers. The low transfers to right over almost just southeast of DC to Delmarva. Look at Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, right just northwest of I-81. This is very heavy snowfall into the Hudson Valley of New York. That's heavy snowfall for you. Watch what happens when I advance it again. You can see places like Philadelphia, New York City, you do end as snow, should this track verify. But look at what the European also does for Boston and Massachusetts and northern Connecticut. That is very heavy snowfall. In fact, you would easily see 6+ inches of snowfall on the European. Now let's advance this even further and look what happens as we head into next week. Yes, on the West Coast, you can see your Pacific Northwest, another system starts to enter the picture. That's just one. And then as we go even further into late next week, into the following weekend, at this point, we are looking at Saturday of the following weekend. A lot of time to work this out, but there is potential, once again, for a major storm system to impact the West Coast, and that could be just the start of many storm systems. You can see, look at this, long-range European. Now we're at the end of its run. Very heavy rainfall once again in California, and I'm concerned the pattern will shift once again where that does end up being correct. Alrighty, let's take a look at a total snowfall map on the European real quickly. We'll just look at the 10-to-1 ratio map because this is not going to have a lot of ratios with this storm in the northeast, but let's just take a look here. It'll just give you a general idea how much snow the European is spitting out. And look at State College, Pennsylvania. 8 inches of snow. You talk a little ratios, maybe it does get a little higher, up to 10 inches of snow. Look at northeast Pennsylvania, just north of the Pocono Mountains, and then into the Catskills. Yes, that is 8 to 12 inches of snow. You're even seeing a 13-inch marker. Western Massachusetts, same deal for you. Vermont, this needs to shift further north to get into the height of your ski resort area. If it shifts just a little bit more north, we're talking heavier snows. We'll get into just south of Burlington, just south of Stowe, Vermont. Albany, you're right on the cusp here. Slight shift north, you go into 6+. Right now, you're looking at like a 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inch event, but there's still time. This is Friday. The storm system's going to start Monday night into Tuesday. There will definitely still be trends in the modeling, but right now we're starting to see good agreement on the models of a major winter storm, perhaps the biggest of the season for some places in the Northeast, Monday night into Tuesday. We're gaining confidence now. By the way, I should point this out to you. Remember we showed you earlier the winter storm watches and warnings that are up for portions of Texas and portions of New Mexico? Yes, the European is showing amounts of up to 3 to 6 inches, maybe even localized higher amounts in Texas from this exact same storm system that will be coming into the Northeast. The backside of it, it's going to produce some snow for you, so be mindful of that. It's going to look like winter again. Let's talk about the long range. Speaking of looking like winter, it's going to be colder on the 6 to 10 day outlook in the East Coast. Slightly above average in the Great Lakes, slightly below average in the Northern Plains. On the West Coast, it is going to be slightly above average temperatures for you. Even in Florida, slightly below average temperatures at this time. On the West Coast, down through the South, as you can see here, it's going to be a wet period, especially in the far west. Well above average precipitation returns for California. More flooding events. I think they're going to come. You saw at the end of the European, there's a good risk of heavier rainfall for you with multiple storm systems. 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. You can see here now. Above average temperatures in the Great Lakes. Not going to be terribly above, but it's not going to be as cold as it normally would be. Colder than what it's been in the past few days, but again, it's not going to be any major cold. Along the I-95 corridor to the East Coast, down through the Gulf Coast, down to the Southwest, slightly below average. Probably closer to what it should be at this time of year, but no extreme cold is expected, and well above average temperatures in the Pacific Northwest. If you happen to be heading down to, say, maybe Florida over the next couple weeks for vacation, be mindful. It's going to be stormy. There are definitely the threat of thunderstorms. Some of these fronts that are coming through, they're not going to be moving all that fast. They're going to be stalling over Florida, and it's going to be a wet period. And look at this, 8 to 14 days, yet again, in the West Coast. Well above average precipitation. Places like Lake Mead, I think Lake Mead, just because of all this precipitation that's coming, it could get a good filling. Will it completely fill up? No, but it's definitely going to help the situation with these reservoirs. California, you don't need any more rain at this point, and like I said, there's a lot more of it coming for you because the pattern is looking favorable for you. Slightly below average precipitation in the 8 to 14 day time frame in the Northeast, though that could change. If we get a storm system that happens to pop up and right up the coast, such as the one that we're going to be seeing early next week, this below average would not pan out. So that's something I'm a little questionable about, but I'm in 100% agreement with the above average precipitation in the West Coast. Alrighty guys, that does it for today's weather update. We'll have another one again tomorrow. Follow me on my Twitter page, which is at Climate Data Report. It's Climate Data, capital RPT, because I will be tweeting about the severe weather this weekend, and of course anything that changes with this storm system for the Northeast. Again, it's a pretty sizable storm system. In some places will get 6+ inches of snow. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to my channel down below. Share this with anyone who's in path of the winter storm, the severe threats down south, and of course the ongoing threats of more flooding in California that will enter the picture late next week. I will see you guys all again next time. Until I see you again next time, have a fantastic Friday evening, and thanks for watching.